Welcome to The Photography Guy. I'm your host, The Photography Guy. Let's get started here with another great photo show. Hey, yes, welcome back, my friends, once again to The Photography Guy. This is episode number 68 for Sunday, January 11th, 2015. I'm your host, Jack. Thanks once again for joining me here to learn more about your camera and making great photographs. Please check out my website at thephotographyguy.net. You can also comment on these shows if you check out thephotographyguy.net. And I know the past couple weeks have not been uploaded onto there yet. I just looked at that this morning, and I will fix that later today. If you're listening to this audio podcast, please check out the YouTube videos, and you can find that at 42 Technoman. Once again, that's 42 Technoman. You can also now, let's see here, learn everything you want to know about Photoshop Elements 12 and 13, and there's more courses coming on there. And now what I mean by a course is it's just a very, approachable way to watch these videos. I know you can watch them all on YouTube and you can jump all over the place, but isn't it better to have a place where they're all just lined up and in order for you so you can get on there and watch, step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. I think that's a very, very important way to watch these videos. You can find that at jtclearning.com. That's jtclearning.com. And I know a lot of you already signed up for those. It's very just inexpensive, so check those out if you have a moment to do so. Let me tell you about a new feature we have this week. We're now streaming this on a radio channel. I set up a streaming radio station, so we are streaming live and in living color over to the radio. You can find that radio show at jtcradio.com. That's jtcradio.com. And I do my very best to keep it active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a variety of different music on there. And I'm hoping to replay these shows over time on that channel. So, there may be some music, and then all of a sudden there may be one of these shows pop up on there. You can do a recap and listen into that in your car. You can get these shows on your smartphone or on the computer, whichever way you'd like to check that out. But you can check it out at jtcradio.com, and I hope that you do. Please check that out sometime if you have a chance. If you're not in a Facebook group, you might want to join that Facebook group, and that is at Jack's Tech Corner. Many of you have done that, and I really appreciate you coming over there. We have a lot of new people in there. Right now, I'm going to jump over real quick into the chat room and say good morning to a few folks here. If you're not in the chat room, please join me in learning more about photography and, talking on the chat room. Jamie Bryant, good morning to you. Faye, good morning. Good morning to Tina. Addie, it's A-D-Y. I guess that's Addie, or it's supposed to be Andy, one or the other. And good morning to you, Vicky. If you're not in the chat room, please do so. Just jump in there. We don't take any points off for spelling errors, that's for sure. And I will be monitoring that chat room throughout the broadcast. I had a Facebook question come through, and I thought, I'm going to address that Facebook question. This is a great way to bring questions to me. Say, Jack, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? And we can dig into some of these tutorials. And this one I had a lot of fun getting ready for. I actually woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, came up, sat in front of the computer, and I started playing around a little bit. I started to do some editing and started to play around, and I said, wow, this is pretty cool. And here's the question. This question is from Iris. Would you be able to show one of the splatter or disposition techniques? Now, if you've never seen Splatter before, I'm going to show you this morning. It's a really, really neat edit. I think you would enjoy it, and it's really easy to do. So we're going to do that edit first. Now, before we do that edit, I have to teach you, first of all, how to add brushes to your Photoshop Elements. Because when I went to do this, there was no splatter brushes in Photoshop Elements, so I had to add those to my elements. And I'm going to show you that first. And then we're going to do a little bit of out of bounds techniques. I'm going to take these headphones off because it's actually giving me a headache. So we're going to end up doing a out of bounds technique, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's first get started here with finding our splatter brushes. Okay, let me get this out of the way, and we're going to get started. We will take this off and go to our desktop, just like so. Bring my browser over here, and Now, where I found these splatter brushes at, if you want to follow along, you can do so. I'm going to try to copy this and put it in the chat room. Let me try to do that first of all. So if you're in the chat room, that's another good reason to be in there. Let's see if we can throw this in there for you. It doesn't want to paste it. Let's see if we can paste it manually. And no, it won't even let me paste a link in there. So you'll find this link on our Facebook group is where you're going to find it at. And actually, if I could do this at the same time, we're going to do this now. We'll throw it in there for you so you'll have it. Let's just jump on the group here. So what I'm doing here real quick, I'm just jumping over to the Facebook group so I can add this. And we'll just add that to the Facebook group. All right. So there it is. So if you want to follow along with me this morning, you can go in there and download the brushes you need. Let's go back and look at these brushes. Now what we're looking at here, very simply put, is some splatter brushes. And I found this, for those not in the chat room, at a website. That website is myphotoshopbrushes, all one word, .com/brushes/ID/355. So if you're trying to write that down real quick, let's do it one more time. myphotobrushes, all one word, .com/brushes/ID/355. So the brushes are written right here. They're written by a gentleman by the name of Alexander Schultz. I think it's Schultz. It's pretty close. And all you got to do is click on the download link. So you're going to download those brushes, and it's probably going to go to your download folder. All right, that's probably where it's going to go. Now, I'm also going to give you another link, and we're going to put this in the Facebook group as well. Let me just throw this in here. Install brushes. And here's another link in the Facebook group. So what we're going to do, though, first of all, I'm going to show you just a really quick and easy way to get these brushes to work for yourself, on your computer. So, and good morning to June. I see that just joined us in the chat room. Good morning this morning. Okay, now the easiest way here, we're back on our Photoshop Elements, as you can see, and it looks like my Photoshop Elements is not showing as much as I want it to. Let me recapture the screen here so we can show you more of the Photoshop Elements. Right there. Let me pull it over here because we're going to have to see these layers this morning for this tutorial. All right, right there. All right. Now we have our whole Photoshop Elements. Now, the easiest way to install a brush, and what's going to happen when you install the brush this way, it's not going to stay. Okay, let me say this again, because I know I'll get emails from you folks. If you install the brushes, they're not going to stay unless you follow the guide I put on our Facebook group, where you can actually go in there, and in that Facebook group, what you'll want to do is load those brushes into the proper folders on your computer. And it tells you how to do it on Windows and on a Mac. So it's very simplistic. But let's go to our brushes under the Draw panel on our Photoshop Elements right here. We're going to go down to our brushes on the bottom. Click on that. And the easiest way to load it is if you go on the pull-down menu here and click on it, you'll see down here where it says Load Brushes. Okay, so there's Save Brushes. Go all the way down to the bottom where it says Load Brushes. Let's click on the Load Brushes. Now what's going to happen here, your file menu is going to pop up on your screen. You see I'm already in my Downloads folder. Now in my Downloads folder, I have those brushes I downloaded called Splatter. Let's back up 1 minute. When you download these brushes, they're going to come in what's called a zip package. Now, hopefully you used zipped utilities before, like Uncompress on Windows or Archive on the Mac. All you have to do is right-click on it once you download it and tell it to uncompress or to unarchive it, to open it up. Very, very simple. When it does that, you're going to get a folder called Splatters2, and then there's going to be a .abr file here. Those are the brushes. .abr, and you'll simply click open. That's going to temporarily give you those brushes and have those available for you. What I mean by temporary is once you close Photoshop Elements, those brushes are going to be gone. You're going to lose those brushes. So what you want to do is you want to follow the guide on our Facebook group at Jack's Tech Corner. So if you're not on a Facebook group, please jump over there. And I usually accept all the members, every day. But then you can click on that link and follow that link. So I already have those brushes loaded. I'm actually going to go back up here. And I have those brushes loaded already. So what that means is when I click this pull down menu, it's now on my list. And it's called pencil brushes. Unbenedicted, whatever that is, unbenedicted pencil brushes. Okay, that's the brushes we'll be using. Now, if you just load them the other way, there'll be a little temporary menu at the bottom that will have those on there. So we don't want to do that right now. Let's go back up to the Move tool. All right. Now, as I said, I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning and I started to build these tutorials for you. So we're going to, I didn't record it, so I'm going to do this live. So bear with me. Hopefully everything will work out and the stream will stay up. And if you miss something, this video will be going up on YouTube. Hopefully by the end of today, I'll have it posted on YouTube for you. So if you miss something, you'll be able to go back. For those of you in the live show this morning that like to do the tutorials and post them on our Facebook group, please do. I'd like to see your work. So let's go ahead and begin our tutorial for this morning. So first thing I want to do, as always, is duplicate my background layer by doing Command or Control J. And then I like to shut that background visibility off. So I'm just going to click on the visibility and shut it off. The next thing we have to do is we're going to have to cut out our subject. Now this is not too bad because this is the photos I did last week with you when we were doing the lighting photography stuff when we were using the flash. So it's not too bad or too hard to do with this photo. If you have a lot of background, you may be getting into a little bit more difficulties. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to select this out with our lasso tool. And I'm going to just make a selection here, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of some of that stuff in the middle. Don't worry about that. So I'll start at the bottom of the pot. I'm going to work my way around, and I'm just using the lasso tool. I'm not really going in and out. I'm just kind of cutting out the flowers themselves. I don't want too much of the background because I got to deal with that in just a few minutes. Let's just cut the background out. We're just using our lasso tool. We're going around the outside of this flower here with the lasso tool, and we'll go underneath it. All right. Once we have it selected, we're going to do again a Command or Control J. Okay, Command or Control J. And what you're going to get now is just the flower itself. Now, remember a minute ago I told you I have to deal with the rest of this background. Well, that's okay because being that the background is transparent, I got to deal with this white in here, this white area, gray, whatever it's showing up on your screen. We got to get rid of that. So what we're going to do here, it's very simple when you're using a solid color to do this. I'm going to use the magic selection brush. So you see I got the magic one. So I click on the selection tool, magic wand. And on my toolbars on the bottom, I'm going to click on the magic wand tool. Or if you hit the letter A, it will select it. This allows Photoshop Elements to get rid of that background without me having to do a whole lot with it. Okay, so once again, it allows it to do the work for me. Now, what I mean by that, it's very, very simple. And good morning to Barry in the chat room. I see you joined us this morning. All right, and June's in there. I think I addressed you already. So now that we got that tool selected, we're going to go and we're just going to start selecting this. I can tell you, set your tolerance at the bottom to about 20. If you set it too high, it's going to select too much and you're going to have a big mess on your hands. So let's go ahead and make a selection. You can see where a lot of that's already selected. I just hit my delete key and I'll delete that. I can work inside these flowers, which I'm going to do. I'm just clicking around anywhere there's that little bit of white or that gray area, whatever you're seeing on your screen. We're just deleting it. So it's very easy to get that background gone by using the magic wand tool. Sometimes the magic wand tool gives us a lot of issues, but most of the time for solid backgrounds, it works extremely well. And it allows us to cut things out very, very sharp. All right, might want to get, see, now we don't want all that selection. So we'll Command or Control D. Back up in here. And I'm just going in between each individual branch of these flowers and cutting out the background. Again, folks, if you're just joining us here in the live show this morning, good morning to you. And we are currently working on a splatter technique that was brought to my attention by a viewer. So it's very nice to get those viewer questions in. It helps a lot with the show. Helps give me ideas because sometimes, we run out of ideas. All right, what I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to use the eraser tool just to erase some of this down at the bottom. Clean this up just a little bit right in here. And, well, it's over here actually. We're going to clean maybe here. No. Okay, so that's the best possible we can get it. Once you get your selections all made and everything is done, what you want to do then is do a Command or Control J. Command or Control J. No, we want to duplicate this one. So let's go back. Let's delete that layer. Yes. This layer. Okay, we're going to reselect it all. Okay, so we reselected by holding our Command key down. And we're going to do that again. We're going to do Command or Control J. Get rid of this. Command or Control J. And we're going to duplicate it again. So now we have this layer, layer 2, and we have layer 3. Okay? Layer 3 and layer 2. Turn the visibility back on. On layer 2, what we're going to do now is we have to do some displacing. What displacing means is we're going to pull this flower. We're going to have to pull the flower out to give us something to work with for our splatter technique. Okay, very, very simplistic to do this, folks. Very easy. So we're going to do some splattering technique on this, but first we're going to pull it out. What I mean by that is we're going to use the liquefy tool. So we're on layer 2. You're going to go up to Filter, Distort, and we're going to go to Liquefy. Now, once you're on the Liquefy tool, what we're going to work on is start to pull this or displace this flower out. So it's very easy to do. We're going to use the top tool, which is the warp tool. Seemed to work pretty well for me this morning, or hopefully this is going to work okay again. And we're going to just start pulling the top of the flower out. Now, if you're doing a portrait, maybe you want to pull half the body off. And what we're doing is we're setting it up so we can do the splatter technique. All right, so this is very, very simple to do. All we got to do now is we're going to just start very simply pulling up on this flower. And you'll see how this flower will start to displace. And you notice I made a really, really big brush size here to do this with. Really big brush size. I'm just pulling this up, and I'm going to give it a good bit up here. I'm going to pull it way up. And I know you're saying, Jack, that's really displacing that. That's really starting to make a mess. It is. Try to keep it kind of proportional to the shape of the flower. And you'll see why. That'll come very apparent to you here very, very shortly. All right. So we're going to pull this up. And we're going to pull up over here. And all I'm doing is left-clicking my mouse and dragging upward right on top of the flower. And what it's doing, it's pulling it like you would pull taffy almost. Kind of feels that way too because it's very slow going when you're pulling this up. All right, so we're going to pull it up here, and I'm going to make it as high as I can. And this is something you have to play with. I mean, I did a couple of these since 5 o'clock this morning, so this is we're going to pull it up here. You can see already how this is really displacing this flower. We're going to displace this leaf a little bit, pull it down a little bit. All right. Once again, we're working on the splatter technique. Okay. This is just creating another one of those conversation pieces I tell you about so often. Okay. Now, you noticed I just did the top of the flower. You don't want to do this edit to the whole entire flower because it will look kind of cheesy. So I did it to the top of the flower. You would do it to half the body or half of a fish or whatever you want to work with. Once you get that done, all we got to do at this point is click the OK button. We're going to let Photoshop Elements do its magic. I'd like to say good morning to any new viewers this morning. Hopefully you join us here each Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not in our Facebook group, hopefully you'll sign up for the Facebook group, and that is at Jack's Tech Corner. I'd love to have you over there. So we are working on displacing this. This is the Liquify, and it's running just a little bit slow here, but we'll get it done. Hopefully we will. And I can tell you that the more you liquefy something, the more you displace it, the longer it's going to take Elements to re-render that picture is what it's doing right now. It's looking at all those pixels and it's adding those pixels up there to the top of this photograph. Is what it's working on. And for those listening to the jtcradio.com, if you're listening to the radio show, you're more than welcome to come over and visit us on the live stream. We're at livestream.com. It's actually livestream.com/accounts/554235/TPG68. That's where we're at right now. Okay, so now we have that liquefied. You can see the results. You can see how that's all pulled across the top here, and that is our total results. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a layer mask on this layer 2. That's very, very simple to do, right? Go to your top toolbar if you've never used a layer mask. The first thing is New Layer. The second item is Adjustment Layers. And the third item here is Layer Mask. Let's add a layer mask. Click on the layer mask and do a Command or Control I. Now you see what happened? That picture went back to normal because we just took all that and we hid it all. That's what happens with the Command or Control I. You hide everything. Let's go up to layer 3. Okay, so now we're just on that top layer, layer 3. Let's add another layer mask. This time you're not going to fill it with black. We are going to leave it white. This is where we're going to start our splattering technique. So the splattering technique will start there, but we want to do one more thing before that. Now, you noticed I cut the gray background out. Here's the background we did have, the gray background. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to put a new, just a solid white background behind it. I just think it looks so much nicer. If you've never worked with layers before, let's talk about this for just a brief second. The layer on the top is covering the other layers. We want to pull that layer down because we want it to be the background layer. So we're going to go down below the 2 flowers. I'm just pulling it down with my mouse. And now it's below those 2 flowers. Before we get started, we're going to fill that with white. So let's go up under Edit, Fill Layer. You can use the paint bucket or whatever you like to do, whatever is the easiest method. And we're just going to simply click OK. As you can see, now we have a solid white background on there. It's going to be so much easier to do this edit with a solid white background. Now we're going to go back up to layer 3. Folks, layers are so critically important. And what I mean by that is when you're working with layers, make sure you're clicked on the layer that you want to do your edits on. If not, you'll get really confused. Okay. So we're going to click on layer 3 and you're going to click on the layer mask. Let's go over and change our colors. We want black over white, the foreground and background. So on your color palette, if you just hit the letter X, it will flip those for you. It flops it just with the letter X on the keyboard. Keyboard shortcuts are so great to learn because it just saves you a tremendous amount of time. It's really, really simple to do. And good afternoon to Peter, coming to us from the UK. Now that we have the black selected, we're on our white layer mask. We are going to start our displacement or our splatter. Let's go now and click on the brushes. Okay. Now on your brushes, on that new brush I told you to download, and that is the Pinsel brush. It's Pinsel. The first name you'll notice is UNBENANNTE. And what I used here was brush number 2500. Close my brush tool. And you'll notice now that I have splatters on here. All right, so I do have a splatter brush. You see, I don't really... I'm sorry, it's 2,500. Why did they number them both the same? That's interesting. All right, that's the splatter brush I want. 2,500. It should look like that on your screen. You see the splatter up there, but that's way too big to start your splattering. So if we use your left and right bracket keys, the left and right bracket keys on your keyboard will change the size of your brushes. This is too big, folks. Let's change the size down. And we're going to just start clicking around on this flower. Okay? Just very easily clicking around on it, cutting some of the edges off and making a little bit of splatter. Now, what I can tell you when you start this, change your brush settings. Move the lighting around. Do that under brush settings on your tool panel on the bottom. Click on that and change the angle of the lighting. So let's move it the other way a little bit, down this way, and give it a couple over here. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to change this back up this way a little bit to the top, maybe 145 degrees. There's no exact method. This is really much, a lot of this is based on, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we're going to just do a little bit more splattering in here. Lower my brush size down a little bit maybe, and do maybe on top of this leaf here. And lower it down a little bit. What we're doing there is we're almost making it look like it was eaten by a bunch of bugs, right? The flower was just all chewed up. Because we're going to splatter this out anyway. And put a couple more in there. Maybe over in this leaf, just a couple more. Maybe on this tip. I try to break up some of the hard edges is what I'm trying to do here. All right. So you can see now where it's pretty much splattered out. Now we got to bring that effect back on the top that we stretched out, right? We pulled it up. So we're going to add that effect back in. Now, how do I do that? Well, easy. We're going to click on the black mask on layer 2, the black mask. Now we have to paint with white. Because remember, white is going to reveal, black is going to hide. Hit the letter X on your keyboard. Now we're going to paint with white. And we're going to start doing the same thing. We're going to just start clicking out here. And I wouldn't make these all the same. Again, let's go back to our brushes here and change the angle a little bit. And we're going to put these over here. So we're going to angle it up different. We might want to make a bigger splatter right about here. Something like that. And what you're doing is you're actually just displacing everything. You're making different brushes or moving it around. You can even choose different splatter brushes. But for the edit here, I think this is going to be pretty nice. So we're actually just splattering out there. I'm just clicking around my left mouse button. So again, I hope we see some variations of this on our Facebook group, because I think it's just a cool edit. You can see where the flowers are almost like they blew up, right? Like the whole top of the flower thing blew off there. Go back over a different brush there. And we'll lower the brush size down a little bit there. And we're going to just place it over here. Just like so. And try to go as far as you can, see what you can get there. We know that leaf is over here somewhere, so maybe like that. And you can always go back in and you can re-liquefy. I'm not going to do that because it seemed to take a long time to liquefy. So that is our splatter technique. The last thing I noticed this morning I wanted to do with that, I thought, well, that was pretty cool, is I'm going to merge these layers down. So I clicked on the layer 3, hold my shift key down, click on layer 4, and then I'm going to right click and go to merge layers. Now you see that I put everything into one layer. So all that Photoshop work is now into a layer. I didn't really like the flower kind of floating off in space. So what we're going to do now is do a simple crop. And we will crop this down a little bit. All we got to do is pull our crop tool up a little bit, just to make it look like it's kind of sitting on a table there. And click OK. So there is our final edit. I'm going to just check the chat room and see if there's any questions going on this morning. Good morning to you, Norm and Bob. Nice to have you guys in there this morning. Glad you was able to watch the live view this morning. So folks, that is a very, very quick and easy way to do a splatter technique. Okay. What I'm going to show you next is, I think we're going to go right into our next edit. And so far we learned this morning how to load brushes. And if you haven't learned how to load brushes, I put the brush download into our Facebook group at Jack's Tech Corners, the Facebook group. And I also put in there how to install the brushes. Now, I didn't write that. Luckily, that was written by somebody else. But you'll learn how to install these brushes so you can have a splatter brush so you can make this type of an edit. Just something different. One of those conversation pieces. Some people may even call it art. All right, so the next thing I want to show you, this is just a really fun edit. And this is under your guided edit tools. And, I don't show a whole lot of guided edit tools, but we're going to show it today. Now, the guided edit tools are really, really easy to use. What we're going to do first of all, as always, well, we don't even have to duplicate this background layer because I tell you why. If you're using a quick edit or the guided edit, it does all that work for you. So you don't have to get into editing the background. You don't have to do anything with it. Let's just go into the guided edit. Okay. Once you're in the guided edit, you're going to go over, now this is Photoshop Elements 13, but this is also in 11 and 12. Go under Photo Play, because now we're going to play with our picture. That's what they think. It's a photo play. Folks, so many people, let me just point this out, is so many people believe that we have to do everything under the expert mode if you're going to be an expert photographer. But I've done basic touch-ups on wedding packages using the guided edit tools. Even the quick edit's pretty good for, exposure and lighting and such. So as we talk about our digital cameras, I always tell you that there's a lot of settings on a digital camera that a lot of people never use. We tend to always want to just put our camera on automatic and just start shooting. But you spend all that money for all that electronics in that camera, you need to learn how to use all of it. That's why I wanted to start these shows some years ago. Same way with the Photoshop Elements editor. They build all this stuff in there. You pay all this money for it, right? That would be like buying a set of 4 tires for your car, but always only driving on 1 tire. I know that kind of sounds weird. That's kind of a weird metaphor, but I like to put things into just a straight out package for you. So Photoshop Elements has all this great tools in here, all these wonderful tools that we need to learn how to use. So let's go ahead and show you how to use this tool. This is called the Out of Bounds tool, and I hope this edit works better for me than it did this morning. I've been playing around with it, like I said, since 5. So you click on it, it just gives you an easy walkthrough. It shows you a picture at the very top here. We're at the top right-hand side, and it shows you a picture about moving your mouse up. You'll see the full picture. When you leave off, you'll see what the end result is. So I found this great picture of this gentleman on this surfboard. I didn't take this photograph. This came probably from Google Images. So if you ever need a photograph to play with, Google Images is a great place to find something to play with. All right. The first thing we're going to do here is we are going to add a frame. Let's add a frame to our gentleman. Now, when you add this frame, folks, move it around. The idea of this, and you can read it through the instructions, but the idea is leave whatever you want out of the frame that's going to be out of your picture. So I want the top of his hand there. I'm going to pull this down a little bit, put his hand out. I'm going to pull it to the right. I'm going to leave some of the surfboard out. So I'm just looking for these little handles on the sides of the box. I'm going to pull it into the right. We're going to leave some of that surfboard out. Once again, this is how to create an out of bounds, one of those 3D looking pictures that are beautiful for hanging on your wall. All right. Let's go up a little bit from the water and then just click the little checkbox. And you can see now we have that surfer in our little frame, right? He's already framed in that little frame. Now what we're going to want to do is we want to get the out of bounds effect. We want to do that other side of it and get the out of bounds effect. So once that's done, I hit the little checkbox again, and you'll see all my picture, and the white frame is around there. We see now kind of in the background that the surfboard is out, and that his arm is out. All we got to do now is do the next thing. It says use the selection tool and select the parts that you want to extend out of your frame. And I tried leaving the water out, didn't work. So anything I want to leave out is his hand. And I'm going to show you a little technique here because this is going to happen again. This happened. What just happened was it selected his whole arm inside of the picture. I don't want that. But I noticed in the tool, there's no negative. I can't take that selection back out. But if I hit my Alt or my Option key on my keyboard, if I hold that down, we can actually go up and we can take that out because your cursor will change to a negative, a minus. Minus means you're going to remove something. Okay, so we're going to remove it. And it has to be right outside the white frame is where it has to be. All right. Next thing we're going to do is select that tip of that surfboard. So let's go ahead and select the tip of the surfboard. Again, you see we went inside the surfboard, inside the white frame. You don't want that. Hold the Alt or the Option key down. And again, you're going to just select outside of that. And we'll get right outside of this, right there. Then it gets a little bit tedious in here. My word for the day, tedious. And then what I'm going to do is lower my mouse size down just a little bit, my brush size. Okay, my mouse cursor brush using the left and the right bracket key. If you don't know what a left and right bracket key are, they are the key immediately to the right of the letter P and the key right after that on your keyboard. Those are brackets, the little square brackets. So we're going to lower this brush size down just a little bit. And right like that. And we're just going to select down here a little bit. You don't want on that white. I did this morning. I was on the white and it did not work out for me. So I'm trying my best to get off that white to show you this edit. Off the white frame because the white frame will cut itself out. A little tedious right there. Okay. All right. Okay. And maybe I'll drop that back a little bit. All right. So once you have those selections made, here's a little trick for you. Be very careful of how much you leave outside of your frame. Because the more you leave outside your frame is, the more you have to select. And the effect wouldn't look right. If you took a horse and you put half his body outside the frame, that wouldn't look as good as maybe just a horse's head. Okay? Now let's go ahead. We're going to create that out of bounds effect. So all I got to do is come over and click the mouse button on out of bounds effect. And you can see now where his hand is up out, as well as the surfboard is up out the other side. Once you have that done, what you want to do is hit Add Background Gradient. So we're going to add a background gradient. And the gradient itself says normal is the mode, the layer mode, 100% capacity. And we'll just click on that. We're going to add a gradient. And then it says, what kind of gradient do you want? That's just a simple gray one I was playing with this morning, but you can have a colorful one. Maybe something that looks pretty cool, I think. Let's just use that gradient. That's a blue over, right? A blue and a yellow. Click on that. And there is your final picture. You can see now where he has a 3D effect with his arm up. And if you notice this side over here, I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. I'm going to pull this to the left here. You notice right here where my selection was not that great. Be very careful, okay? To try to be right on that white frame when you're making that selection. Be very, very careful. And I noticed something else up here with his arm. You can see right around his hand there where the gray is still right there. So be very careful around that area also. And then there's another piece of his arm that wasn't selected. All right, so that does happen. So that is called the out of bounds effect. Very simple to do. And, you know, it's just a really, really nice effect to put on your photograph. So once you're done with it, you know, you can add the shadowing. So we can add a small shadow. We can add a medium shadow. And where it's shadowing is around the frame. Or we can add a large shadow. All right, probably the medium shadow is probably about the best that you're going to get. It's going to look absolutely perfect with the medium shadow. But again, you don't have to do it Jack's way. I'm just giving you the tips and you're going to do it your way. That's what's important. That's what editing is everybody getting their own little creative touch on things, as you folks are so well at doing, because I've watched you so many times on our Facebook group and your photographs are just amazing. So, and once you're done, just simply click on done. And that is our final photo. Let's go into expert mode, since we have a little bit of time here to talk about this, and see what it did. What did all that guided edit do for us? So if I click on the expert mode, we will see here that it created a bunch of layers. It started with the background layer. Actually, we're going to shut these off, and I'm going to show you these, hopefully. All right. Computer's run just a little bit slow there because we are broadcasting on the same computer that we are working on. That's not always the best way of doing things. Okay. So here's the original photograph. It did a color fill. Okay. It brought back the original image. Next. And this is, I don't know why. Oh, that's the gradient fill because it's in the background. So we'll shut that off. It did the inside photograph. And then it did the layer mask like we did earlier, how we played with the layer masks. So it masked out what we wanted to mask out. It framed it. Remember, we built the frame around it. There's the frame that we built around it. The gradient fill was the outside photo. So here's the outside. And then the gradient fill was underneath. And that filled in that background layer there. So that is what it actually did. That's the photo with the overall effect there we had. So it's very, very simplistic to do. Just a really great edit. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So make sure you learn to use your guided edit as much as you use your expert tools. I think you'll be happy that you did, play around with those. Let's see here. Good morning, Norma. Says you're a little late. And Bob, I think I addressed you before. And Barry, did I say Barry before? Got a great, great chat room there this morning. A lot of folks in there this morning. A lot of viewers this morning. Just, follow me here on live stream. And when I go live, you will get notified. You'll also get notified at Jack's Tech Corner on the Facebook group. You'll also get notified. Let me bring this back up. You'll also get notified on Google Plus. I throw it on there in the morning when I set the view up. When I set the event, it's called up. And you'll also get notified if you follow me on Twitter and as @Technoman, TECHNOMAN. I put a link in there. But the best way is to follow me here on livestream.com. And then when I go live, you get I think it's an email blast. Maybe somebody in the chat room can help me. Obviously, I don't get them because I'm the broadcaster, so I don't really get those to send out there. Or can't tell you anything more about that. But anyway. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for viewing this show and tuning in. Today's live stream had the most viewers we ever had. And I think it's only going to grow. I told my wife this morning I've had people emailing me saying, Jack, where's that live stream? Where do you, show your videos at? So I think it's getting more popular every week, and that's just wonderful. I am going to say a special shout out and a thanks here to everybody that's been watching these shows like Jake, Peter, June, and Vicky, I believe. Since the very first shows years ago, they've been hanging in there each week with me, and it's just been wonderful having you on board. And it's great having everybody new on board. I really enjoy. The more viewers, the better off it is to do these. But get your questions in. Your questions are what's going to help me. Folks, thank you for tuning into the show. If you're downloading these on iTunes, please watch the YouTube video. You'll get a lot more out of it at 42 Technoman. That's my YouTube videos, 42 Technoman. I still do have a DVD collection available if you're looking for Photoshop Elements 12 and Photoshop Elements 13. I can still make the Photoshop Elements 11 DVDs if you need those. Those will be available at jackstechcorner.com. The best way to learn Photoshop Elements, folks, I can't stress it enough, is to sign up for the course or the videos at jtclearning.com. They're very, very inexpensive. And as I add new ones, if you sign up there, you'll get those new ones on top of the ones that's already there. So you can sign up for those today at jtclearning.com. At the top of the page, click on courses and then photography, and you can go ahead and sign up for those. Don't forget to check out the new radio show at jtcradio.com. We're trying to make that a hit. We'll see how that goes. But what I'm planning on doing is taking these shows, these recorded MP3s. Now, you're not going to be able to see anything, but if you're in the car, maybe you can just re-listen to the show and recap some of it in your mind there as you're riding along in the car. Or at home, you can sit back and use it as editing because I play a lot of, there's a lot of music on there also. and it's streaming out there to you, so you can just sit, use it. And right now there's some relaxing music that's playing on there. I got bagpipes and stuff. It's really, really neat. So check that out at jtcradio.com. Folks, I hope you have a great work week. Thank you so much for joining me here this week for the live show. Hope you do catch me on YouTube. And remember, as always, keep those shutters clicking, keep your editors editing, and I'll see you back here next week at The Photography Guy. Thanks so much, and bye for now.